Hi, welcome back to Safe Space Talk. And if you remember from last week's episode, we are doing our birth bundle, which me and Renee will be recanting every episode one of our children's birth stories. So you can take a dive and a personal little look into how midwives give birth, because literally this is how midwives gave birth.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get started, we want to do our ceremonial or non-ceremonial, whatever you want to call it, candle lighting, going out to anybody who might be struggling or needing just a little bit of extra thoughts, vibes, energy, prayers, and yes, let's do this double team. Oh yeah.
I told you, girl, this thing is
Let me start up
sedity.
here.
That's how you do it.
There you
Boom.
go.
There
On
you
our
go.
little fox, giving you vibes out. Casting spells.
Need to put a little excerpt. I put a spell on you.
No, Lord. We're going to get hate mail
you're mine.
from probably all the witches who actually do practice witchcraft because we're posers.
Exactly. You're not even Wiccan.
right.
Like, wait, Wiccan.
Sorry. Didn't really mean it. Sorry.
But, so today I'm going to be asking Keesha some questions about her birth. We're starting with number one.
Number one.
The original.
Oh my gosh, my first baby. So,
Name and all that fun
Malachi.
stuff.
His name is Malachi Mario, and he is currently 14 years old and way taller than me, 5'11" by now. But he was born March 21st in 2009. And he weighed 7 pounds 9 ounces and was 21 inches long because he also has a long father. So and I was 40 weeks in one day, and I had just turned 20, not that long prior to. So still somewhat of a teenage pregnancy. Similar to your story, I did do a birth prep class at the hospital. I actually gave birth at Fort Hood Hospital, so very similar to Fort Bragg, very similar setup, except for the midwives had a whole OB section. So when you came in, it was like really like the reception, the NST rooms, everything, the ultrasound, everything was in one section, so it made it always easy. It made it very not hospital like anyway. So there you saw a whole bunch of different types of midwives. You didn't, like in the Army system, I don't know if everyone's aware, you don't always get to choose your provider. It's kind of socialized medicine, so you get who you get, yeah. And so you don't have an option a lot. And so going through that, I felt like people were doing me wrong, but I didn't know enough to know if that was true or not. I remember very distinctly one, I think she was a WHMP. I don't even know if she was a midwife. She told me I had gained too much weight over the last time period that she had seen me, and I needed to cut out the Kool-Aid and
watermelon. Fried chicken.
The Kool-Aid and chicken.
I knew it. Yes. For those who may not be aware, Black folks are allegedly famous for
loving
fried chicken, watermelon, and grape Kool-Aid. Or no, not grape Kool-Aid.
Red
Kool-Aid.
Red flavor.
So the red Kool-Aid, and then the other stereotype is that Lumbee Indians are the grape of everything, like grape ice cream, grape this.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes. So, but me, I think I was 19 still at that time, and I was just like, I don't even drink Kool-Aid. Like, what is she talking about? And I worked in a warehouse. I actually worked 3 jobs when I was pregnant. I had just moved out. When I found out I was pregnant, actually was the day after I moved out of my mom's house. I moved to my own apartment, and I had a party that I was about to throw to I have my own place. I'm an adult now, and I got sick as a dog. I thought I had food poisoning, and everybody's like, "You're pregnant. You're pregnant." I was like, "No, I'm not pregnant." So to shut everybody else up, I took a pregnancy test. Did not really know how to read a pregnancy test. When it came out with 2 lines, I thought that was confusing because I was like, "That can't be the right answer," but this says yes. So still already complete disconnect. I went to my neighbor because I saw that she had been pregnant and had a baby recently.
You're like, tell me what this is.
So yes, and she's like, oh yes, that's positive. And so it was right before my shift in the warehouse, and I worked with his father, my ex-husband, and he already had a child, and he was young as well. So I was terrified to tell him. So I drove there in my steel toe boots and my warehouse gear,
Mm-hmm.
and I drive up there and
Get up.
get to the warehouse, and I'm the only female that's back there because it's like we're literally unpacking trucks, unloading trucks to put them on pallets to take them out to stock into the grocery
Mm-hmm.
store. And I'm crying at the warehouse door, standing there, and everybody's like, oh, and everybody already pretty much knew, if a girl's coming up into a warehouse crying, then somebody in there is pregnant. Everybody knew who the likely culprit was. So I ended up telling him, and he told me I have to get a haircut. And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he says, "I have to get a haircut." And he leaves. He left work. He clocked out, left work. And so now
Oh
I'm
wow.
sitting here like, am I a single mother? Okay.
Yeah, like how do I read that?
Yeah. And then I think like 10 hours later, 12 hours later, he came back and was like, okay, like, let's do this. And I was like,
That was a long ass haircut.
processing. I'm sure that was probably the drive to a different state to get a haircut. I don't know. But he came back and finished up a different shift for it because he worked 2 jobs at the time. So he finished up a different shift for like at the same place, but under a different contract. And yeah, so that was how that came to be. And the whole introduction into maternity, no one told me. My mom was a young mom, but she I guess didn't have a lot of guidance herself either as far as like what to expect in pregnancy. So you're just
Mm-hmm.
all kind of like
Mm-hmm.
blissfully you don't even know the world of things that could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And you're worried about things going wrong that people are like, oh yeah, that happens all the time, that's not a big deal, that's not like, what
Exactly.
if the cord is around the baby's neck? Okay, it likely might be, it's fine.
Exactly.
But the things that we should be worried about, that's not what we're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the backstory for him, the setup. I was a college student working several jobs and just trying to make it at the time. And then so I thought, because everybody's saying, oh, that's such a big baby, such a big baby, but I was still measuring behind. So we get to my due date and nothing's happened. And I go to work and everybody's like, shouldn't you be at the hospital? And I'm getting so frustrated because I'm like, if I was in labor, I would be at the hospital. And at that point, I had resolved in my mind, my body had failed me. It did not do what it was supposed to do.
The due date had passed.
The due date is passed, and the induction date of the following Saturday, because the due date was on a Friday, and the following Saturday was my induction, so I was going to be 41 and 1 or something like that.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like, all right, well, I guess I have another week to be pregnant. And so I go to work, I come home, and the father, his dad at the time, was with his first child, and at the park or whatever, kind of had custody of her this weekend. So usually when he had heard that, he wouldn't be at my house too much. So my sister came to visit me. For some reason, after I got off of work around 2 p.m. I was just dog tired. I was exhausted, like I could not stay awake, and I felt so bad, but I kept falling asleep because my sister's in my house, and so she ended up getting picked up by my mom or whatever. And then by 3 a.m., I woke up and I thought, wow, that's a hard kick. And I remember sitting straight up in the bed saying, oh, Malachi, because I thought he had kicked me really hard. But because I had woken up to a contraction, I didn't compute what it was. So I was just like, oh. So then I'm like texting my friend, and she's out partying because it's Friday night. Like, something weird is going on. So it feels it kind of hurts a little bit, but I'm not sure. My stomach's kind of like I thought I had like food poisoning again. I always assume like it's a GI bug or something, but I don't know what shady stuff I'm eating. And she's like, yeah, maybe see if you can try to go back to sleep. So I'm tossing and turning. This was about 3 a.m. And then by about 5 a.m., I was like, something is definitely wrong. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I think maybe there's a stomach bug, but this is intense pain. And so I text him like, hey, I need you to come over here. Something's going on with me. So then he comes over, and he's just kind of like, because I had this tiny little apartment bedroom, and I'm like bumping into him. He's trying to sleep, and he's getting like all annoyed. Like, this girl won't be still. I'm restless. I'm pacing. I go to the bathroom, and my water broke. I didn't know my water broke. So I'm like, what is that wet stuff? Yeah. What is this wet stuff? And I'm like, okay, clean my underwear. I don't know. Maybe I peed myself. So then I remember asking him, can you fill the tub up with really hot water? And he's like, what? And I was like, I just need to be in really, really hot water. I don't know anything about birth. I was just listening to what I thought my body wanted to do at the moment, which was to
Mhm.
get into the hottest body of water that
Oh,
I could get
honey.
into.
Your birth is coming.
Yeah.
This,
So
this is not a good. This doesn't sound like it's gonna end in a hospital. But go ahead.
so I get in there and I'm just like, you know, in a bikini top and basketball shorts. I remember sitting in the tub like this. And then I get up after the water gets cold and I get out and get on the toilet and I'm like, it's my underwear just keeps getting wet. And I'm like, why does my underwear keep getting wet? What's going on? And then I saw the faintest streak of blood. Like so tiny that you could probably to the naked eye could probably not. And I was like,
size of a mustard seed.
I was like, yes, because that was the faith I needed. That's all I needed to be like, something is definitely wrong. I don't know what's going on, but I have to go to the hospital. So still at this point, I'm like, this is not labor. Mm-hmm. Something is wrong. And I called the hospital and I said, my stomach really hurts. I can't stop throwing up. And that was the thing. I just kept vomiting. And so that's why I thought it was this GI bug. Mm-hmm. And she was like, the flu was going around, take some Tylenol and probably try to lay down. So I did it and I threw it right back up. So I was like, I need to go to the hospital. So by 10 a.m., we're at the hospital. Walking, he's getting annoyed because I'm every 3 steps I'm having to stop and like squat down in the parking lot and I'm doing all these things, still unbeknownst to me because I've only went to the 4 labor classes where they showed a video of giving birth and I was traumatized at that and I was like, oh my God. But in my head, I was like, no, when I go into labor, when they induce me next week, I will go unmedicated and this is how it's going to go and blah, blah, blah. Not today. No, this is not how it's going to go. And we get into the hospital and I literally, this is how I walk in. I say, I don't know what's wrong. I think I have the flu, but my stomach just really hurts. And then I'm like this at the triage desk. Mm-hmm. And they could not be bothered.
They're just bothered. Primate, mm-hmm. Whatever.
Yeah, so then I said, they're like, do you think you're labor? No, my stomach just hurts. Because to me, contractions were like they start and they stop. It never felt like a start and a stop type thing for me.
Oh, wow.
It just felt like non-stop pain or more pain, but there was never no pain. And it wasn't mm-hmm. in my back. It was purely like my stomach was being wrung out like a washcloth. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt. It just never stopped. And maybe I was dehydrated, who knows, from all the vomiting. And so then they hooked me up to the monitor, don't say anything, walk out the triage room, the curtain. And so I don't know what's going on. So I'm in so much pain that my polite self goes, oh my God, are you kidding me? Because they're listening to the radio and like laughing. And to me, I'm thinking, you're not taking me serious. Not that no one ever told me we need a 20-minute strip on you. We're going to see what your contraction pattern is like. We're going to, if this would have been explained, I probably would have not been mad. But I didn't know what they were waiting on. I thought, hey, my pain is very real. And it's a lot of it. And something's wrong. And I'm bleeding and my
and you're up here listening to,
Steve Harvey in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was what it was.
And nephew Tommy.
I remember, and it's funny because I actually went to nursing school with one of the LPNs that was checking me in, and she goes, so she's checking me in. She couldn't be one bothered. This is a regular Saturday morning for her, and she goes, "Do you want an epidural?" And I goes, "Yes." And then my boyfriend at the time goes, I thought you wanted to go on Medicaid, but he had his PlayStation, his portable PlayStation.
Oh, not
she looks
not
up,
at this time, sir.
She looks up and she goes, I think you should be quiet over in that corner over there.
Oh!
And goes back to writing the armband. And I was like, for that, I was so thankful. So I was like, okay, you pissed me off early, but now I like you.
Exactly.
And so we get there and we're being monitored and the midwife comes on. She introduces herself. And she goes, oh, yep. And she looked at me with a speculum. And then she goes, oh, yep. And she pulls it out. And then I said, I didn't know what she was looking for. I just allowed someone to insert something in because they were in a position of authority. Mm-hmm. And so I'm still thinking I have the flu. And so then I'm asking something like, what's going to happen or what are we doing or something like that. And she goes, oh, baby, you're not going anywhere. And I was like, why? And she goes, because your water's broke. I see fetal hair. You're like 6 centimeters. And I was like, no. Exactly. I have the flu. My induction is next week. Mm-hmm. Did you not hear me when I came in here? Exactly. Like, no. And so that took a little bit. So then as soon as I realized in labor, it was panic. Panic set in. We called my mom, and I'm panicking because I'm like, okay, so now this pain is what I thought was going to be the tip and they were going to fix it. Now this is the base. Because now I'm thinking pushing is going to be you taking it to the next level. Like, so something else is coming past this. Like, so they're like doing the epidural and I'm thrashing in the bed like, yes. But as soon as I got to the hospital, I couldn't move how I wanted. I have the IV, I'm hooked up. So that's when I started getting uncomfortable because I couldn't pace. At home, I was pacing for hours on end. Like one room, back to then, back and forth, to the toilet, to the tub, back and forth, back and forth. And I feel like that's what helped me progress because I was able to instinctually listen to my body
and do it.
And and not panic and then be still. So I ended up getting the epidural. Not too long after that, the nurse, I had a nurse from Africa. She was a newer labor and delivery nurse, and she didn't do a lot of position changes with me. She's very, very sweet, and she tried her best, but not now looking back, not the most knowledgeable. I think
exactly.
She had good intentions, so she was nice. So I get the epidural, and then she says, "Hey, when you feel like you have to have a bowel movement, let me know." So maybe 30 minutes later, I say, "I think I have to have a bowel movement." She's like, "No, no, no." And then yeah, so
I know I said, "Tell me."
Yeah,
but don't.
She's
tell
like,
me.
"No,
That's
not yet. I don't think so."
Not at this time.
But then I was like, "Okay, well, and I wasn't even gonna fight her on it because you're telling me.
You're telling me."
And then she goes, "Well, I'll check you." And then she goes, "Oh, I guess you do know your body." At this point, I never know what station or how far up I was pushing because I pushed for 3.5 hours. It was quite eventful pushing. Everybody was dropping like flies. His dad passed out, went to the ER, had to be evaluated, came back in a wheelchair. They gave him my afterbirth sandwich, my Subway sandwich. So I had to sit and push while he was sitting in a wheelchair in the corner
eating my sandwich.
Yes. And everyone's like, "We'll get you a new one. Don't worry about it." I'm like, "No, but you guys are all here right now. You guys are all right here. So that means I'm going to have to wait." Closed. Yeah, I'm going to have to wait for this.
He can't go get it. He passed out.
And then he comes back. He's upset. He's like teary-eyed. He thought he missed it. I was fake pushing for 30 minutes because I didn't want him to miss it. Didn't know I was almost going to buy myself a C-section pushing at 3, ignorant to it. Then so she comes in, and all I remember is finally he comes out, and it just felt like he was being like yanked out of me because I felt like for a while it was like a medical rape, almost like literally like just being yanked out, thrown on my chest. It was about to me in my memory it can't really have been this short, but in my memory it was like maybe a half a second because he looked at me with that bug-eyed purple face. And then as soon as pretty much he was on my chest, she yanked him back off and was like, "Call NICU," and put him on the warmer. And so they're in there, and his head is like, I'm going to have to put a picture of his head on the video.
Oh, wow.
It's like Alien versus Predator. Extra. Oh, my God. I've never, to this day, I don't think I've seen a baby's molding ever been that bad before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess he was just
set the mold.
I set the mold. And so then NICU comes, and I'm the whole time, what's going on? And no one's answering me. What's going on? What's going on? And then they finally say, "Oh, you just had a little trouble breathing," and then handed him back to me and was like, "All right, here's your baby." And I was like, "Oh my God, my baby wasn't breathing." But now, how me at 1920 supposed to know? How do I know if my baby's breathing right? I don't know. Like, he was looking at me. I didn't think anything was wrong, and he snatched him out of my hand. Obviously, something was horribly wrong, and I didn't know what even was supposed to occur. So that was the pretty much roundabout story with him. My mom was in a room. His dad was there. And then my friends were outside in the waiting room, waiting to, because it was a very small room, so they only 2 people could be in there. And well, his mom kind of bullied her way in there and then left and threw a fit. So it was like a lot of extra going on too.
No trash.
But overall, I do feel like that birth was so informative, and literally, Malachi means messenger, and I just always liked that name. And I did not know that would be the purpose, but he was literally my purpose into like, no, this has to be rectified. And throughout that process, there was one midwife. Her name was Lethbridge, Kristen Lethbridge. She was a light-skinned black lady or mixed. I can't tell. I don't know. And I saw her and thought, I can do that. She looks like me. I look like her. And I can basically representation of myself. And that was the pregnancy it took for me to be like, I'm going to be a midwife. So he ended up being my messenger in a roundabout way.
I love that.
So, yeah, and that was my little birth story on my first baby.
Oh, wow. Well, I am super proud of you. Because heaven knows, I didn't get the message. I had to have a pigeon with a beak in his a note in his beak come to me to tell me, oh yeah, this would be a good idea. But I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So that was pretty much the first time around, and I would say I was traumatized only after I realized what had been done and how some of my care was grossly mishandled. That's when I was able to process it because I didn't think there was anything to process. I thought that's how a hospital birth goes. That's what you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do. Not till I became a labor nurse did I see what could have been offered to me,
Mm-hmm.
what could have been done instead of me pushing on my back for 3 hours. She never even
Yeah,
told me when I was having contractions. I was just pushing, and I think I was only pushing when I had no contractions. That's why I pushed for 3.5 hours because
exactly.
no one was coaching me. Literally
Mm-hmm.
just the hand in the vagina and 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
No clue, no clue. So,
When would you say that while you were at the house and you were doing all of these things, what for women who haven't gone through it yet
hmm
and they are young, how do you feel like that was instinctually noted?
you
Especially for girls like me who I didn't get an instinct, a note.
because I think I have a lot of bowel. I have a very sensitive stomach, so whenever I have like GI issues, like getting on toilets and moving and pacing, sometimes helps move your bowels. So that was just like that same type of pain. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, get up and move, because when you lay still, you can't think of anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You can only think about the pain. So just get up and move, and that's when you're like can breathe and you feel like you're on top of it, literally like you're on top of the pain. You're not letting the pain take control of you. You're not under it.
Exactly.
You're not. It's not something happening to you. You are a person that is currently having some pain. So
Exactly.
it kind of like mentally gets you above it. And then the hot water, I don't know. I needed something to burn my skin so badly that it did not my stomach didn't hurt anymore, and it did. That's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what happened. My skin burned so badly with that hot water that I was like red, like a lobster coming out. But like it took like it was almost instant, like no pain. Like I laid in there until it drained, and I kept telling him refill it hotter. And he's like, "There's no more hotter. I need hotter,
Hotter.
more
Go
hotter,
boil some
more."
shit.
I was already laying on my side like this, and it's like going down. So this part of my
Watch
stomach,
out
I
for the
felt.
candle.
Oh yeah, this part. Oh yeah, woo, my hair. This
Watch out for
part,
the candle.
this part had contractions in the part under the water. I could not
No
feel anything.
contraction.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, I always talk about how water is amazing, but
yeah.
it's having to have like a tub that you can get into or the shower that you can get into.
Having the option,
Yeah.
which wasn't offered to me at the hospital.
And it was short of Malachi's first spa day in
Oh
the
my
hot
gosh,
tub.
yeah.
That's
I
hot
probably
water.
cooked that poor baby.
No,
Mm-hmm.
he came out well
Well
done.
done. 40 weeks in a day.
40
Well
weeks in
done.
one day.
Yeah.
Yep, that is a beautiful birth story. I'm
Thank
super
you.
proud
Thank
of you.
you.
We're going to be doing this again. So next time is going to be my birth story for my second birth baby, and that is Eli. So that's going to be our next fun-filled episode. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this, being able to hear how different our birthing stories are, and then even with mine, how they change from one to the next. So we'll blow out our ceremonial candles.
Ta-da.
Yes.
Subscribe. Catch us on our next episode. Bye.